Hey everybody, how's it going? Today we're going to be going over how to install this barn door system. I know that these things have become super popular lately. A lot of homeowners and DIYers are probably purchasing these kits from Lowe's and don't necessarily want to hire a contractor to mount a couple brackets and put a door up. So in this video, I'll be going through a pretty thorough process on how I installed this barn door and ultimately got this product. So just a couple notes right off the rip. When I installed this system, I was anticipating that I'd have to cut my door down because in real world applications, they don't always bolt up as easy as the instructions say they're going to. But that's because I had some obstructions above my door. I ended up having to move up my smoke alarm and my fire speaker. I'm in a commercial building, so this stuff was there, and the homeowner bought the door and kind of overlooked it. It's very easy to do. You think that you could just mount around stuff and make it work. So be sure when you're buying a kit that you don't have obstructions in the way, because it might be something you have to tackle and it makes it a lot more work. But I want to go over first with this system. This is actually a soft track system. Super nice, really satisfying. I think it's an awesome system. It's actually the first one I've run into. And funny enough, when I installed this and do these instructions in this video, I did go a little bit out of order because I was anticipating having to cut that door down, and I got super lucky and I had the clearance with the rail at the height that it's at. So just note that in the video. I want you also to take note at the very beginning that there are 2 extra holes in this track, which I'll give you a close-up on after this, and that is where your soft closing track glides go. So I put up my rail first. It's what I've always done when I've installed barn doors, but every kit can be a little bit different. And I discovered after I completed the entire thing that I had a couple of pieces left, and then I saw the holes, and I ended up having to get some needle nose pliers and play a game of operation to get it in there. That was a little bit difficult, so note that. I would recommend mounting those soft close brackets onto your barn door main mounting bracket first. It will save you a ton of headache. I was in there with some needle nose getting it done. I got it done, but it was harder than it had to be. But everything else in the video is super spot on. I'll share with you some tips, some techniques on how I did this efficiently. The only real effort I had to put into was at the end, I had to add those extra little tracks, but they're super nice. They come with a kit, and I definitely recommend using them. So stay tuned for the video, drop a like, subscribe if you like it. I'm going to be upgrading my content as I go. I also want to just mention that in the video, I started using these new mics and I had it clipped to my chain. So you might hear a couple little clicks occasionally in the video, but that's what it is. It's my chain on my neck clicking with the mic on it. So bear with me. I'm going through a little bit of growing pains trying to upgrade my content so to be more satisfying and enjoyable for you guys to watch. But you can see now I've figured out the mic pretty good, and my future videos are going to be much better. Always improving, trying to do better. But anyway, guys, let's get to it and let me show you how to install this system, and I hope this video helps you guys. Now, the very first step in the kit tells you to put on the door hardware, but I won't be doing that because my homeowner chose a different set of door hardware, and I'm just going to put it on at the very end. Also, the kit wants you to put the top and bottom rail on the door first and mount it, but I've decided after going to cut my door that I think it's best that I mount my mounting board. So they do give you a 1x4 to mount to the wall. And this is where all of your little lag bolts will screw into with your standoffs for your guiding track ultimately at the end. And this is the rail that the door will sit on that I'm talking about. So what I want to do is, I already know that I'm limited on height and I'm going to have to cut my door down. But instead of guesstimating and roughly estimating the height of the door where it's going to be cut, I've decided that the best thing that I can do is mount my rail as high as possible and then measure off of the rail with the wheel sitting on it, and I'll know exactly what height I need to cut my door at. It's just going to take a little bit of the room for error out of the equation. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mount this 1x4 to the wall, and I'm going to put up my rail. And then after that, I'll measure down and I'll figure out the height of my door. But if you're doing this based off of the directions for the kit, you'll be doing it in a little bit different of an order. You'll just be putting your rails on the top and bottom of your door with this kit first, and then you'll be getting to this step. But I just want to be safe. I'd rather be safe than sorry. In my situation, I happen to be working with metal framing because I'm in a commercial building and I won't be able to drive the lags that come with the kit into the metal studs, they're not going to grab. So I have to get a little bit creative in my situation. But if you are using the lags that come with the kit, I would recommend pre-drilling into each one of your studs first once you locate them, because they are pretty large lags and you don't want to split the 2x4s when you drive them into it. I do think that they are large enough that even dead center of the board, you're likely to split the 2x4, and it'll make it a lot easier to drive with a pre-drill. So that's how I would go about it. I'm going to find my studs first in the wall, and I love these Franklin sensors. They are awesome. Pretty much you'll guide it on the wall, and there's a button right here you'll push down, and when you hit a stud, it will find the dead center. So you could see right here when I use my finger, that would be the dead center of the stud, but it'll follow it all the way through the wall, which is super cool. So I'm going to go ahead, and I know where my rail is going to sit roughly. I'm going to go ahead and mark out all my studs first. Now that stud finder works really good on wood. I wouldn't say it's as good on the metal, and it definitely isn't without its flaws in general. So I would recommend at this point, once you think you know where your studs are, go ahead and get a screw and just drive it into the areas that are going to be hidden by your trim board that's going up, and just make sure that you hit a stud before you commit to anything. But let's go ahead and see if we hit anything. So I've definitely got a metal stud there. That one didn't hit. I got one here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to circle the ones that hit and then ignore the ones that didn't. So I've got one here. I know I've got one here. And I'm just going to go through the entire wall and make sure that I caught something. So we've got one here. Nothing there. I've got one here. And it seems like I got one there also. Just a recommendation if you're working with metal framing, I know most of you won't be, but some of you will be. I would not rely only on a screw in the stud to hold this rail up. I'm going to be using some liquid nails that I'll put behind the board, and then I will just use those screws to hold it in place until that glue dries. Because the screws can bite pretty good, but I don't have blocking in here, and this is a pretty heavy door. And over time with those fine thread screws in the metal of the constant weight in the back and forth, they will loosen up over time. So let's just anticipate that loosening up, throw a lot of liquid nail behind it, and be sure that when this thing's up, it's never coming down. So I'm just going to transfer my marks onto this board where I'm going to drill it for it to hit the studs. Now, just like I talked about pre-drilling my studs, if I were using lag bolts, I'm going to pre-drill this board too, because you could likely split this board as well. So I've got everything marked where I want it. And I'm also going to use a countersinking bit so that the head of the screw will recess a little bit, and I can use some wood putty and perfectly prep this where you won't see any of the screws after the install. So here are the countersinking bits that I was telling you guys about. And you can see it's got like the pilot bit, and then it's got like a cone-shaped end. And when I drive that into the board, you don't want to set it too deep because you don't want too deep of a patch, but I'm going to lightly tap it into the wood to recess the head of the screw. So that's just a little light recess. Let's see how the screw sits that I'm going to be using. You can see as the bit spun, it created a perfect little circle that when I put my screw in, hopefully it'll sit just below flush. I want it below the wood. And that is actually about perfectly flush. So I'm going to drill it just a little bit deeper. Doesn't take a lot. I can now feel by touch that it's below. You can even see there's a little bit of wood around it. And that'll be a nice, easy hole to patch at the end of it with a little bit of wood filler. If you're working with wood framing, you likely don't have to glue. I think like a screw holds 160 pounds, is rated for 160 pounds when you hit a stud. Those lag bolts are arguably even rated for more. But if you want to do a little overkill, you could do what I'm doing in here. And I'm just going to put some heavy duty liquid nails on the back of my board. So when I put it up there, I know it's going to be perfect. But before I glue and I commit to mounting this board, I'm going to set the board up there one more time, but this time I'm going to do it with a level, and I'll make a little line where the board's going to sit to make sure that when I go up there and I screw it to the wall, I'm not going to be fighting it and getting liquid nail everywhere, because that would be a mess. And this stuff is a nasty cleanup, but liquid nails, I found in my experience, is the best bond. Power Grab's good, but it's just not the same. You need like that oil-based, it's like an oil-based, or it's just a nasty, I'm not exactly sure what the components are, but it's nasty and it's hard to get off of you. So the nasty stuff usually works a little better. This is gonna come up just a hair. That's perfectly level. I'm gonna make one line on this side, nothing major, just a little line. One line on that side, and now I'm good to go. Okay guys, I went ahead and I glued up my entire board. I tried to keep it mostly towards the center. It got away from me right here a little bit, but I tried to keep it in the center so it doesn't get on my entire wall. And I'm gonna carefully put it up there when I screw it to the wall and make sure that it isn't moving on me, because I really don't want to get this all over the wall. Now for metal, you always want to use fine thread screws. The rough cut screws do not grab as well. These also seem to go through the metal better as well when you're just trying to set them. So let's get these in place. Arguably could have done this before I put the glue on it, but like they say, hindsight is 20/20. Maybe you guys will do that since you saw me do it wrong. So I'm making sure that my screw that is lined up with the stud right where I want it. I'm gonna hold it up on an angle. Lightly set this thing down in place. Looks like I hit it right on the money. And also when you're working with metal framing, I did that very delicately. I didn't want to risk over driving it. So there's my level line that I made. Just a couple little clicks. You got to have throttle control. Okay. Couple more. And we're all set. Unfortunately, in one little spot, I did get a little bit of glue that came out the bottom. I'm gonna go ahead and clean that up while it's still wet. Now, if you're going per the directions, they're gonna want you to clamp your rail to that board before you put it up, and go ahead and mark and pre-drill all the holes where you're gonna mount it. I'm in a little bit of a peculiar situation here where the height is gonna be a little contingent on my obstructions on the wall. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to put this up, level it where I want it, and make marks exactly where I want my lag bolts to hold this on the wall. So what I have done is I have sat the door into these guiding tracks that rest on the door, and I've put the wheel where it's going to be mounted. There's some pre-drilled holes up there. And I'm just leaning it up to see about where this is going to set on the rail. And actually, where I'm at flat on the ground, I am about dead center of the 1x4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount this about dead center. I'm looking at the back of the door and I'm noticing that I have still a little bit of a lip covering the casing. So my door is plenty tall enough to entirely cover the casing. So I'm keeping that in mind. So what I'm thinking is where it's sitting right now is about exactly where I want it. I'll just have to cut a little bit off the bottom of the door for clearance with the floor after I get everything else mounted. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna take out room for error, which I always like to do. I can see there's about a 1/4 inch lip with that wheel. So I'm gonna make just a small mark about where I want the top of my rail to rest. If you guys do this the way the instructions tell you to do it, you'll just mount it dead center and do everything else. But like I said, I'm working around things that aren't gonna fit perfectly and I have to cut stuff down, and I'm trying to make the best out of the situation that I'm working with. When I'm choosing a drill bit for pre-drilling my lags, or any screw for that matter, is I try and find a drill bit that is the same thickness as the shaft of the screw. Let me see if I can capture this, but not the threads. Let me just show you guys how this first lag's gonna go. They've got this stopper, which the L will be facing the door. You'll put your lag and your washer through that. And then you've got this standoff, which has a wider head on one side. That's gonna go to the board, and it'll go just like this. So I'm gonna go ahead and set this into the wall. Just be careful. If you don't know what's in your wall, that's a pretty long lag bolt. It could do some damage if you hit something you're not supposed to. I'm gonna go ahead and get my other one in my pocket so I don't have to let go of the rail and get down and create any damage. Get all the tools that I need for the next one after I put the first one up. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna get this lag bolt started in the first hole. So it's holding my rail. And I'm gonna go ahead straight to the other side, and I'm gonna do the same exact thing so the rail is held in place for me. Now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna send this side tight. That's one side in. Now before I go ahead and set my other side, I'm gonna put a level on it. It's pretty good there. Double check. It's about right on the money. And we're in. So my track's up. Before I go through and put the rest of my lags in, I just want to double check and make sure I don't need any adjustments. And I am sitting about dead level. I flip the level around, make sure it's true. It is. And now we're just going to throw the rest of the lags into this. They just won't require the stopper like the first one. And guys, that's so strong, I feel like I could hang on it. Okay, so I'm about to mount my top rail to my door. You can see that there's like a little L on the top. That goes towards the inside. So the straight part goes towards the side that's going to be facing you. I'm going to hold that flush with either side of my door. Now they say if you buy this kit and you don't get the right size door, you can actually cut this rail down with a miter saw. So keep that in mind. I just went ahead and marked where each one of my screws is going to go, and we're also going to pre-drill this, especially this. If there was anything to pre-drill, Pre-drill the door. You don't want to damage the door. Now each one of your wheels that sit on the track will have a set of 2 screws that come in the pack. So make sure you don't lose those. They're not in a separate pack. They're actually in the pack with the wheel on this kit. And I'm already noticing that the wheel is getting in my way. So I'm likely going to go grab a longer attachment to drive these screws. I couldn't find a longer attachment, so I just doubled up. I'm gonna go ahead and set these. I'll try and stay out of the view, but I gotta get a good angle on this. That's one. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and hang the door up and just see how we're looking. Get this out of the way. So we're getting really close now, guys. We're getting really close. Let's see how much we have to take off. It just about clears. I think it will clear. Let's see. Looks like it's going to clear. I'm going to go ahead and let me see down here. Yeah. Well, praise Jesus. I don't have to cut the door down. Got lucky, I guess. Okay, so the bottom is slightly different. On the top, we wanted that L to face the inside. For the bottom, they want it on the outside. So this is the front of my door. So the L is going to go towards the front of the door. Now those pieces that we just installed on the top and bottom of the door have some end caps that cover everything. And while my door is down, I'm going to go ahead and put them in the top also. That's snug as a bug, guys. So we're almost there, guys. Only a couple more steps. We've got this guiding bushing that needs to be mounted to the slab or your foundation, whatever you have, subfloor. If you have subfloor, you're better off than me because I have to drill in the concrete. But if you have to drill in the concrete, it's not the end of the world. It just takes a little more work. The thing is, they kind of give you some generic instructions about where to place this thing when you put it on the ground. They say 2 inches off of the wall and then 1.5 inches in from where you want it to stop. So the 1.5 inches in sounds about right as far as the casing is concerned, because this thing is about 3/4 or 1 inch and casing's 2 1/4 in here. So, I mean, I guess that'll work in my situation, but 2 inches off the wall, that can't be figuring your baseboard or whatever else you might be measuring off of. So what I'll likely do is just put my level on it, plumb it up, make sure that the door's sitting perfectly plumb, and I'll let the level dictate where I'm gonna mount this thing at the end of the day, and I'll make a mark on the floor. And I'm guessing what I'm gonna do is, I'm just gonna go flush with the inside of the casing as well when I do this, so that it'll completely cover the door when it's closed, and it'll open far enough that it doesn't obstruct the opening when it's open. And that'll be what I do. So I'm gonna share that with you guys. I also have to put the handle on, and I'll share that also. But I just want to thank you guys if you've made it this far in the video. I hope that it's helped you out and given you a little bit of guidance on how you can install this stuff effectively. And maybe you learned a couple tricks, and maybe you're like, hey, I'm going to do something a little different. Like, I very well could have put that rail on first And I was just a little skeptical of where the door was going to land, and I was trying to be cautious. But if I would have read the instructions all the way and followed them, better yet, I read them. But if I would have followed them all the way, I might have just mounted it first and gotten lucky. But I really got lucky, and the thing landed perfect. It's got like an 1/8 inch gap all the way across. The floor is perfectly level. So sometimes you get lucky like that. But anyway, guys, if you like the video, make sure you drop me a like, subscribe to my channel. I'll be sharing all kinds of walkthroughs. Hopefully I'll get better with my content as I go. And if you guys have any feedback you could give me, just shoot me a comment, and enjoy the rest of the video, and good luck with your installs. That is perfectly plumb. So I just marked by eye the center of the door when I did that. And that looks pretty good. I'm just going to double check it one more time. That's perfectly plumb. That's about perfectly centered on the door. We're looking good. A little deeper. So right here, they just have a little anchor you have to put in. Oh yeah, perfect. Let's see. And then I'm just going to lift the door over top of it. Hey guys, I'm going to share one discovery I made after putting this whole thing together, and you're going to want to do this first, but they do have soft closing tracks, and you can see right here, that thing slides and catches those little bumpers that I discovered. So you could use the bumpers on those L brackets as stops if you didn't want to use a soft close, but the kit came with it, so I went ahead and put it in. This would be a heck of a lot easier to put in before. I've had to use needle nose pliers and get it done, but I did get it done, and I think it's actually super nice. So you can see that soft close action. It does, it's a little harder to pull with the soft close track in it, but it's super nice, and it even kind of holds it in place. So these do come with that specific kit. I'd actually never seen them before, so I completely overlooked them. But if you guys have that kit and you want to use these, there's 2 extra holes that are in the bracket that are up there, and that just mounts to the inside just like so. And it's very difficult to get in afterwards. So if you guys want the soft closing feature, go ahead and put that on your rail before you lag it up. I didn't feel like taking the whole thing apart, so I've been playing a game of operation in here to get it in, but I got it figured out. I like it a lot. I think it's super cool. It's been a little frustrating that I missed it, but you know, things happen. I'm not perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish this install. Okay, so I did end up using every single piece in the kit except for the handle. We had an aftermarket handle that we decided to use for this. So I didn't have to put the little finger pull on the other side of this door like the instructions said, and I didn't have to use their handle. This actually has that like recessed little spot on the back of the handle right here for you to grab with your fingertips. So that aftermarket handle is super nice. But I will tell you guys, I did run into those couple of issues where I wasn't familiar with the soft close track, and I overlooked it in the instructions. It was on the other side of the page that I was reading, but I did get them in. It just happened to be a little bit more effort than it would have been mounting them before you bolt your lags into that top track. So keep that in mind if you're using this kit. But it is a really nice upgrade to have that soft close. With that being said, super nice. It does make it a little bit harder to push, but hey, that's super nice. Love the aftermarket handle. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Keep those couple things in mind if you're using this kit.